Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are about to can some butter. And before we get started, I want to talk to you a little bit about the process. I have done a lot of research. I've watched a lot of YouTube videos. I've watched stuff and talked to some different things, different people on Facebook, different things. And what I've come up with is what I feel like is the safest process. I have seen everything from, well, I just won't go into it, but some of the processes out there I don't feel like are safe. So this is the process that I've come up with, and I've said this before, this is not USDA recommended, but this is also something that our parents and grandparents have been doing for many years. And so, you know, I don't have a problem with people doing these things, and I don't have a problem with having it in my pantry and for my family to use it. But this process does require a pressure canner. And this process is, you're going to be pressuring, I'm going to be doing pints. And so I'm going to be pressuring them. You can use any real butter, salted or unsalted. Now what I've done, I'll show you here in a minute. I've already unwrapped all the butter and put it in a pot on my stove and melted it. And what I did is I just put my stove on a low heat, just on simmer. So it's barely warm, and put all the butter in the pot. And then I walked away and just let it melt slowly, because if you try to do it fast, you're going to end up burning your butter, and then it's not going to be good. We don't want it brown, we want pretty yellow butter. So I've got it melted, and let me turn this around so I can show you. You can see here, I put a picture on a little while ago, and you can see on the top of this, there's a little bit of the milk separating from this, and I have been skimming some of that off. I mean, it's not necessary to skim it all off, but I would try to get, the mass of it off of there, because that's just going to it's going to float to the top in your jars. It wouldn't hurt it. I'm actually, you can see here, I've got a bowl here with a lot of that in it, and I'm not going to throw that away. I'll make some mashed potatoes or something like that later. Now, turn this back around here so I can talk to you a minute. I saw one video where the woman had washed her jars and then put them on a cookie sheet and put them in the oven so that they would dry. But I'm telling you, if you put your jars in the dishwasher and your dishwasher dries them, you take them out and let them air dry, just as long as your jars are dry, they're going to be fine. Now, she kept saying, you got to have them sterilized, you got to have them hot, and all that kind of stuff. But, I've talked about this before. Even USDA will agree with this. If your jars are going to be in the pressure canner for more than 10 or 15 minutes, then they're okay. Same thing with lids and same thing with rings. Over 10 minutes in the pressure canner or even in the water bath is going to kill the bacteria. So these are going to be in the pressure canner for 60 minutes. And so, I don't have to worry about botulism bacteria or any bacteria being in them, because they're going to be in the pressure canner plenty long enough for us to kill the bacteria. And so I've got my clean jars. They're sitting, y'all can probably see right there. I've got my clean jars there. I've got clean lids and rings here. And I'm going to ladle this into my jars, and then I'm going to put it in the pressure canner. Now, I do have my pressure canner heating up, because this butter it's hot, and it's going to heat the jars. And as you ladle, I'll actually sit my camera down here so I can show you what I'm doing a little bit. Let me turn this around here so y'all can see. I think you'll be able to see somewhat there. As I ladle this into the jars, I'm going to stir as I go because I want those solids not to, you know, they're settling in the bottom of the pot right now, but you don't want all just the clear liquid in your jar. You want it mixed. And there's going to be this is a pretty good process to can butter. So all I'm going to do, and you can kind of, I think you can see right there that I've got that mixed up so that I can ladle these solids into my jar along with the clear. And of course I know it's going to separate again once it's in the jar, but we'll deal with that later. But I'm going to fill these jars up to the rim. Leave about a 1-inch headspace. Let me see if that's, grab me a towel here. It's a little warm. And so I can show you, pick that up, I think you can see there that I've got it up to the bottom of the rim. And go ahead and put that into another one. But you're going to want your butter hot, and then ladle it into all of your jars. Wipe the rims real good with some vinegar. You know, put some vinegar on a cloth or on a paper towel or something and wipe the rims. And then put your lids and rings in, and then put it in your pressure canner. You're going to pressure can for 60 minutes, and you can, and that's whether you're, you know, even if you're going to use half pints. Some people use half pint jars for butter. I like my butter, so I'm going to use my pint jars for butter. I am using wide mouth jars simply because it'll be easier to get the butter out. And so then I'm going to process that in the canner for 60 minutes. Of course, I use 10 pounds of pressure for where I live. And once it comes out of the pressure canner, then I'm going to go live again and show you all how to finish, because it's not, it'll be sealed, but it's not going to be finished once it comes out of the pressure canner. So check back in later for video number 2 on making butter. And I'll show you how to finish it up so you'll have good shelf-stable butter for months to come. I don't know how long this stuff will last. It probably won't last long around my house because we use a lot of butter. And I like my, will say this, all of mine is salted butter because I feel like the salt enhances flavor. So if I'm using this in a dessert or in a vegetable or whatever I'm using it in, I would add a little salt anyway. So I almost always just buy salted butter. But anyway, it doesn't have that much salt in it for adding to a recipe. But I will come back in a little while whenever I've got this out of the canner and show you all exactly. And you'll probably be surprised at how fast this stuff seals when it comes out of the canner too. But anyway, we will be back probably in an hour or so, probably an hour and 15 minutes by the time it builds up pressure and then drops pressure, maybe an hour and a half. But anyway, I will see you shortly. Check back in a little while. Hey y'all, my pressure canner has just cut off. I'm going to probably shake this a second, but I'm going to go ahead and put it in my tripod, because I'm going to show you here just in a second what I have done. Now, I ended up with a whole pint of the milk fats off of the top of the butter because I've done another batch. So I just put them in my other pressure canner. I finished up the heavy whipping cream and then put the butter, the next run of butter, in my other pressure canner. But this one is finished, and so I wanted to show you all when I take it out how it looks. Now I've already unlocked it, so I'm going to take the lid off. You hear those pops? You can see, looks like they are all already sealed in the canner. So I'm going to set this up right here, and I think you all can see as I take these off. The last two popped when I first opened it. Now you can see that jar, how that it's separated into the bottom. So what I'm going to do, get them all out here on the counter, put them out on my little towel that I have there. It's actually they call it a canning pad, I guess. But anyway, they've all got those fats, the butter fats down in the bottom. And so I'm going to take them out and let them sit there for a few minutes and cool. But I'm going to show you something here just in a second. I'll have to get a towel because these are blistering hot. Get my towel that I was using earlier, and I think you'll be able to tell what I'm doing here. As they come out, you listen, you hear that? You can hear that is very liquid. Okay, so what you have to do is get them out and shake them, and then sit them down, let them sit for a while and cool. And you keep doing this. It's going to take about an hour for you to do this, for these to really start to cool and get cool enough for those solids to remain solid throughout the jar. And as they do that, when you shake, you hear how that is? That's the way your butter will be when it's ready to, you can put it in the refrigerator overnight and let it set up, and then after that, take it out, take the rings off, and then it's shelf stable. But you can see these are very liquid right now. Ooh, that one just popped. And that lid was loose. That's why. That one may not seal because the lid was loose. Sometimes that happens in the canner. The lids will loosen a little, so that's something to check for. I'll have to remember which one that was. When you get them out, just check them to make sure that they are sealed. That the lid is on there tight before you start shaking them. I'm not used to having to get something out of the canner and shake it. Check all of these and make sure that they're tight. It's like I told y'all before, this is not a process that I have done before. I knew it could be done. I've seen people do it, but I just never had done it before. But now, with the shortages, and I don't know if we're going to have a shortage of milk. I don't know if we're going to have a shortage of butter. But with what's happening in our country, I think that it's smarter to be prepared. If we can still go to the grocery store and get butter for the next 6 months, or if we can go get milk for the next 6 months, keep doing that. Leave these on the shelf for when you need them. And in 6 months from now, if there's still an abundance of milk and butter in the grocery store, then start using it. But it's better to be prepared, especially for you folks that have small children at home. My husband and I we could live without butter, and we could live without milk. But children need that dairy. They need that milk for their bones. So anyway, I think it's best if we're prepared for whatever's going to happen. I mentioned to somebody earlier that I know that the containers that are sitting off the coast in these harbors are probably not carrying milk and butter. I live in a rural area, and there's people all over the place around me that have cows. And if it got bad enough, I'd probably go find me a farmer with a cow and say, hey, I want some heavy cream and I want some milk, and I'd make my own butter with that heavy cream. And I can show you all how to do that. It's real easy. But I say it's easy as long as you got electricity. When the electricity goes off, then it's not so easy, because then you got to stand and either shake a quart jar or, you know, use a old dasher in a butter churn for hours. But anyway, for right now, we have electricity, so it's easy. And, you know, I just feel like that there's you know, we're smart to try to be prepared. And, you know, I saw a news person yesterday. I don't remember which news channel it was on, but anyway, this person on the news was interviewing somebody who was at the ports. And this guy, I don't know if he was an owner of the port or if he was a manager or whatever he was, but he said, we could expect this to last until 2023. So, you know, that's a long time, over a year. And so are we going to run out? You know, what are we going to run out of? Clothes. That comes from overseas. Electronics come from overseas. Now, I'm just being realistic here. Some furniture comes from overseas. Kitchen appliances, lots of them come from overseas. I think some of the food that we get probably comes from other countries. So, you know, I don't know how much of our food come from other countries. So, is it good to have some pinto beans canned and some potatoes and maybe some chicken and the butter and the milk and dry can some flour and some nuts, some oatmeal? You know, whatever your family eats is what you want to put up. And I mean, it would be crazy if your family doesn't like okra, then you probably don't need to worry about canning any okra. I know people that are putting up everything and it's never going to get used by them because they don't eat it. But think about the things that your family eats on a regular basis, and then put up, you know, at least a month or two supply of that food if you can. And then as your budget allows, I know we can't go out, most people can't go out and buy a year or a year and a half or 2 years worth of food at one time. But they're saying that these ports could be clogged up for the next year and 3 months till 2023. So we better supply, you know, have something. I know that a lot of our medications come from overseas. And so, you know, it would be smart to have some baby Tylenol and some adult Tylenol and some ibuprofen and some Pepto-Bismol and some Band-Aids. You know, just some things that you would need in a first aid kit. It would be smart to have those on hand. And I can go on a tangent. I could talk about this all day because I've been researching this for a very, very long time. And so, anyways, I'm going to turn around here now. I've let these things these cans, I've let them cool for a minute. Let's see. They're still too hot to touch. Well, I could touch them, but they're still too hot to pick up. So I'm going to pick them up. I'm going to pick it up. You can see those things are still floating to the bottom. And it's still liquidy. The sound of it is still too liquid. So, still going to shake them again. I saw a video of one woman and she was dancing all over her kitchen holding these things. I can assure you this girl's not going to dance. Get those solids out of the bottom. See, now this one, let me hold this one up so you can see. I probably should just, let me grab me a pot holder. Maybe easier to do it with a pot holder. than get one of these ugly gloves and hold it like that. You can see all the solids have settled back into the bottom. So just do that. And like I said, it's going to take about an hour, because you know how long it takes the jars to cool when they come out of the canner. So you can let them sit for probably 15 minutes and then come and shake them, and then let them sit for another 10 minutes or so, and then come and shake them. You don't want to let them sit too long, because you don't want those solids to get solid in the bottom. Then if that happens, you're going to have to heat it back up in order to move it around. So just keep shaking them. And so anyway, I will come back to you and show you pictures. I may come back to you in just a little bit so you can see what they sound like whenever they get more solid. You can tell that it was like those fats that I pulled off the top, that you could not hear them slushing around in there. So anyways, I will come back on in a little bit and let y'all see what's going on with the butter. See you then. Hey y'all, I am back with the butter. It is finally thickened up some. I want to show you what you'll be looking for. I actually had put some of it in the refrigerator a little while so I can show you that. So let me set my camera down here so I can just kind of show you a little bit about what you can look for. I think you can see that there. Okay, I'm going to show you this one. This is one I just took out of the other canner, and you can see, you can hear. It's still quite liquid. Now this one, you hear that? You can hear just a little bit, but you can see that it's beginning to set up. Now I've got one back here. Now this one has already been in the refrigerator, and you can see it is solid. So anyways, this one's still, you can still hear, so you can still hear a little bit. But those are going to sit there for a little while. I'm going to be shaking these others that came out of the canner and get them ready. But you can see that's almost, you can just almost not even hear it. But it's a big difference between that and that. So that's what you're going to be looking for. And so anyway, hope y'all have a very nice evening and enjoy your evening. And then tomorrow, Lord willing, I will see you all and we'll can some chili. Y'all have a good night.